Today's headlines: Eider Hospital no longer able to provide meals for more than 800 patients in its care as the siege continues to deplete food stocks in Tigray. Russian embassy in Addis Ababa flooded by Ethiopian youth eager to enlist for Russia's war on Ukraine. Hello and welcome to those of you watching Tigrai TV on satellite television, as well as on our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. I'm Sadlor Glama and I'm here with the English news for the hour. Moving on to the first English news, Eider Hospital has announced that it will no longer be able to provide its meals to its patients. The hospital is currently providing care to over 800 patients, receiving treatments for a multitude of medical issues, including 300 employees. Our reporter Sarah Kalali has more for us.
Eider Referral Hospital provides its service to over 300,000 patients a year. Patients from neighboring regions such as Afar in Amhara, as well as Eritrea since the border was opened, used to get treated. Currently, over 800 patients are getting treated in Eider Referral Hospital, which used to provide food for patients and its medical staff. However, now the hospital is unable to provide this service. As a result, patients who fully depended on the service are now in an existential crisis. Gazai Tesfai is one of the many suffering from this crisis.
There is no food in the hospital. We can't even buy any food since we don't have any money. Yesterday, they only gave us biscuits for the entire day. We ate to relieve our hunger.
Not only the patients, but also the doctors on duty are now facing an existential problem. They find themselves in a difficult situation to live and work, as they are also unable to get meals during their working hours in the hospital. Dr. Lydia Waldai says that this has affected their personal and career lives in a tragic way.
Some health professionals were living here and getting food service from the hospital. People were working out of hope that one day the war and the siege would end, thinking there are people living in even worse conditions. So it was okay for us to work that way so long as we help save the lives of our patients. But now we can't even get any meal, even once a day. Things are getting worse.
This is the hospital section where meals used to be prepared. But now, as can be seen, there is not a single food supply in this room, and food service is completely stopped, taking the lives of patients to even worse scenarios. Muse Tesfai, the Chief Administrative and Business Development Director of the College of Health Science of Maqala University, says Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital is unable to supply food to over 1,100 patients and its medical staff on duty.
We have about 800 admitted patients and 350 doctors. So more than 1,100 people. We used to provide meal service, but since April 14, 2022, we have officially forced to discontinue our food services.
The director also urged the international community to take an immediate action towards bringing this misery to an end.
So we have message to the international community. We kindly request the international community to exert their utmost effort and help us save the lives of many innocent patients and the lives of our doctors, and also to anyone who is capable of helping our hospital or patients or doctors. Please extend your support as usual.
It is to be recalled that the hospital ceased utilization of essential machines such as oxygen due to the blockade.
This week, Russia's embassy in Addis Ababa has been flooded by Ethiopian youth wanting to enlist for Russia's war on Ukraine. This comes just days after Ethiopia opposed international consensus to remove Russia from its membership to UN Human Rights Council in light of its invasion to Ukraine. Ethiopian state medias have also drawn Russia's war on Ukraine in a positive light, while the war has seen the displacement of over 6.5 million Ukrainians. We had a short stay with Gazab Kasa, a political analyst who says this act of the Ethiopian youth emanates from what has been going on in the country for the last almost 2 years, where soldiers from other nations, including Eritrea, were invited to participate in Ethiopia's war on Tigray that has seen the death of hundreds of thousands and displacement of millions. Let's take a look at the report.
This is a reflection of what's going on in this country than what's going on in Russia. I think at the crux of the matter lies the intervention of the foreign forces in Ethiopia. And this genocidal war, one of the main characters that we see in this genocidal war is the involvement, free involvement of foreign powers. One. Firstly, the regime that invited foreign powers to come and attack its peoples is a mercenary regime. It's willing to work for any foreign interest and it's allied with any foreign powers. Two, just alien forces are just hovering and loitering around every corner of Ethiopia and doing, they are highly involved in military activities and political activities and intelligence activities, be it not only in Tigray, but in Amhara region, in Addis Ababa, in Oromia, and much of Ethiopia is overrun by Eritrean army. So this confusion and this crisis has its manifestation in these different aspects of life. So the one that we saw yesterday, when a number of youths just flooding to the gates of the Russian embassy, just in the name of supporting the cause of Russia against Ukraine. Well, this is a telling piece of how a mercenary regime in Ethiopia destroyed its own nation and how it created a moral and a political vacuum that disorient the youth just to the extent they become willing to enlist themselves as mercenaries for a foreign actor. This is simply the logical conclusion of what has been going on for the last 2 years in this country, for the last 18 months. We have been experiencing the most brutal genocidal war. So this genocidal war was caused by a mercenary regime and its allies, its fascistic allies. So when you have a mercenary regime in Arat Kilo, when you have a mercenary regime that's willing to work with foreign powers, that's willing to work for the interests of foreign actors, then it's possible for any ordinary citizen of this country to become a mercenary for any state. The mercenary regime in Arat Kilo has created not only a moral vacuum, but it has also created a failed state. So within a failed state, citizens cannot act normally. Citizens are desperate, economically desperate, socially and morally disoriented, and politically confused. Therefore, it's normal for them to show this kind of characteristic. What is clear is that there is an internal factor. There is a moral vacuum, a moral crisis, a political crisis, an economic crisis that pushed these youths who were just flooding yesterday the gates of the Russian embassy.
In its most recent statement, Tigray Heritage Society condemned the ethnic profiling and brutal murder of 326 members of the clergy and custodians of heritage sites in Tigray. The statement said Ethiopian and Eritrean forces carried out a systematic attack on heritage sites in Tigray, stealing hundreds of ancient artifacts and significant manuscripts. Our reporter Winta Kidana has more for us.
Tigray Heritage Society issued a statement condemning the brutal murder of 326 members of the clergy and the deliberate damage on hundreds of religious sites, archaeological settlements, museums, and statues. The statement said over 26 gold and silver coins and a number of other artifacts were looted from Aksum Archaeological Museum, in addition to the looting of more than 3,000 manuscripts and over 300 crosses of gold and silver have been stolen from Waldeba Monastery alone. The statement emphasized the killing of clergy and heritage custodians was targeted ethnic Tigranes and has gone a long way in removing important historical events. The Heritage Society also said the Aksumite stele, considered to be one of the most significant historical artifacts in sub-Saharan Africa, was in serious danger of collapse due to unchecked movement of heavy Ethiopian and Eritrean vehicles. The statement explains that thousands of heritage objects, including magnificently illuminated Ge'ez manuscripts, were damaged or pillaged and smuggled to different international antiquity markets. The association finally calls on the international community, such as UNESCO and ICOM, to plan an urgent intervention to protect, salvage, and restore Tigray's cultural heritage.
Multiple reports organized by international rights groups as well as media have revealed that the attack on women in Tigray was systematic and an indication of the genocidal intent of the invading forces. We spoke to a survivor of sexual violence in Magala Hamlin Fistula Center, and she says that the soldiers were ordered by their superiors to rape and assault Tigrayan women. We have more on that. The past 17 months of the deadly Ethiopia's war on Tigray has been marked by its gruesome human rights violations such as mass killings, destruction and looting of private and public properties, as well as weaponized sexual violence. This is a woman we met at Magala Hamlin Fistula Center, where women who have fistula condition as well as uterus complications are treated. She says she was tortured and raped by the allied forces that invaded her hometown.
They came to my house at 10 p.m. and knocked on my door. I didn't open and I remained silent, but they got in through the roof. Then they said, "Who'll save you now?" After that, one of them told me to put my hands up and I did. They all got in and started searching in the house and broke the window glasses and everything there. Since they found no one in the house, they stranded me and beat me. I have scars everywhere in my body now. I have been stabbed in 3 places. I also have a scar on my head.
The rape survivor woman also mentioned that the soldiers were ordered by their commanders to rape her and added that she remembers the event as if it happened today.
While I fell down then, they looted everything I owned, including my gold jewelries. After all of that, they pulled me into the house. There were 7 of them there, and some of them were carrying all my properties. 3 of them raped me turn by turn. They were ordered to do that by their commander. Later on, 2 soldiers came in to rape me, but after seeing me soaked in blood, they didn't want to touch me. So they ordered me not to tell anything to anyone because they were also ordered to rape me.
She also added that 10 months long siege has affected her as much as crimes committed against her by the Allied forces. She says that she has found it difficult to gain her health back as all the basic supplies including food and medicines remain blocked.
After that, I was sick. My body was full of scars. There was no hospital and no medication. Eritrean soldiers were everywhere, and we would find Ethiopian soldiers too. So I used honey as a medicine and got a bit better. My scars started to heal. However, I sustained uterus problems. It couldn't heal. I was suffering for a year and 5 months now. It has been just 2 months since I came here.
A report by Tigray Bureau of Health and Magala University shows that there are over 127,000 women raped, gang raped, and used as sex slaves by Ethiopian, Eritrean, and Amhara forces. Health facilities in Tigray have been deliberately looted and destroyed while the ongoing siege on the region makes it impossible for Tigray's health system to revive in any meaningful way. Patients in Magala, the capital of Tigray, are in a dire situation. We spoke to patients, including people with chronic illnesses, who called on the international community for an immediate humanitarian assistance to save the lives of millions on the brink. Haile Gabr has a report.
The blockade of roads by the federal government and his allies has made the entry of medical supplies to Tigray impossible. As a result, many hospitals and drug shops run out of medications. Henceforth, lack of medication continues to put the lives of millions of Tigrayans in dire need of medical assistance. Patients are suffering due to the 10 months long siege placed on Tigray, and many are losing their lives due to lack of medication and medical supplies.
I'm suffering from kidney failure, hemorrhoid as well. I have been prescribed 6 items of medicines, of which I have got only 2 of them. I couldn't get the most important ones.
I have been examined in Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital, the largest hospital in Tigray. However, I have been searching for the medicine the whole day across different pharmacies in Mekelle. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it. I came to the Ethiopian Red Cross drug shop hoping to get the medicine prescribed to me, but it is depleted here too.
My mother is sick. I'm here to buy medicine for her. However, I couldn't find it in any of the pharmacies, including in Ethiopian Red Cross drug shop.
The patients and their family members called upon the international community to reach the millions of Tigrayans in need of healthcare assistance as soon as possible.
We plead to the international community to understand our problems and help us with medical supplies, as thousands of Tigrayans are dying due to the fatal siege.
All concerned bodies must resolve the problem and help the patients who are suffering due to lack of medication on a daily basis.
The international community must demonstrate its commitment for the due entry of medical supplies into Tigray. Newborns and children are in need of vaccines, which are administered regularly. On top of this, there are also people with chronic illnesses who demand life-saving medicines.
Abad Tsagai, pharmacy coordinator for the Ethiopian Red Cross Society, Mekelle Brian, says that such a situation is not merely complicating the physical illness of patients, but also leaving them psychological traumas. Moreover, he also added that health workers are also getting depressed if they fail to treat their patients due to the depletion of medical supplies.
It's a bit hard to understand people's feeling in connection to lack of medical supplies. Many are dying in front of our eyes due to lack of medication. It's annoying indeed. The psychological problems that follow are worrisome as well.
Brahanu Makonnen, executive director for the Ethiopian Red Cross Society in Tigray, added that drug shops under the organization have been forced to discontinue providing services due to the blockade on medical supplies and other essential items in Tigray.
Pharmacies under the Ethiopian Red Cross Society are not fully functioning due to the siege. If things continue as going on, our drug shops may cease providing services soon.
The World Health Organization has announced that there are close to 4 million people in Tigray in dire need of medical attention as the central government of Ethiopia maintains a blockade on all essential goods and services coming into Tigray, including medical supplies and food assistance.
The 18 months long war on Tigray has caused numerous calamities on the people. It has forced millions to flee their homes and shelter in IDP's camps with no access to basic necessities of life. We have spoken to IDPs from Western Tigray in Mekelle who said most of them will die unless emergency aid reaches the IDP camp immediately. Abil Zagabu reports.
Due to the 18 months long deadly war on Tigray, millions have been displaced fleeing their hometowns. More than 1.2 million people were displaced only from Western Tigray, just in the first year of the war. In effect, they have lost everything they had.
The people of Tigray never look for what is not theirs, but they are not deprived of what they have been accumulating for years. Family members are departed due to the war. We don't know the whereabouts of our relatives. We don't know who is alive and who is dead.
As people, we Tigrayans were busy at the fight against poverty. And when the war broke out, many Tigrayans were killed while they were at their work. And those of us who survived had to flee, leaving our kids and our husbands behind. That was unfortunate.
The IDPs added that the Ethiopian government and allies have killed thousands of Tigrayans in Western Tigray and are now deliberately starving the remaining ones to death. They said millions others will die if emergency food aid doesn't reach the camps in no time.
We were told that aid will reach the camp at the end of August. We were also told that a flour of 1.5 kilograms would be given daily for everyone in the camp. However, it has been 8 months since then. There are people that haven't received 1.5 kilograms altogether, let alone 1.5 kilograms a day.
The world should take a look at us. We are in a bad situation. The humanitarian crisis is getting worse. If we don't get urgent attention, we are more likely to die. So the world must help us.
Children, the elderly, and people with chronic illnesses are dying just from starvation. Only God knows what will happen to the people of Tigray if the siege has continued for a few days from now.
Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch have confirmed that ethnic cleansing had been carried out in Western Tigray in their joint report recently, and these IDPs are living witnesses of the crimes.
During the 8 months of occupation of Tigray, Ethiopian troops and their allies from neighboring Eritrea would massacre thousands of innocent civilians, and they would loot and destroy public and private institutions. Lachinai Complete Primary School, found in Maiqanatal District, central zone of Tigray, is among the public institutions that have been completely destroyed by the Allied invaders. The school encountered near to $200,000 loss due to the destruction, as reported by the school management. For more, Abraha Batensay.
Lachinai Complete Primary School, based in Maiqanatal District, central zone of Tigray, was among the public and civilian facilities targeted by the Ethiopian troops and their allies from Eritrea last year. According to Mabrahtu Atakalti, principal of the school, the joint forces have demolished half of the school's blocks and classrooms by mortars and machine guns during their invasion of the area last year, and consequently, the school has encountered an aggregate loss of 10 million birr.
The Ethiopian and Eritrean forces have perpetrated massive damage on our school. As you can see, this room had a lot of properties, including computers, but the enemies have burned it and destroyed it. Our school has faced serious problems.
Mr. Mavrahtu also says that the enemies have burned store and administration office of the school, and the school has lost all of its equipment in the rooms.
This room was used to serve as a store and administrative office before, but the enemies have burned it and destroyed them. All kinds of properties have been changed into ash. As you can see, there were computers, duplicating machine, photocopy machine, but all have been burned here.
According to Mr. Mavrahtu, the enemies have also burned the pedagogical center of the school, which was helpful to provide practical lessons and demonstrations.
pedagogical center
This was a pedagogical center. It had a lot of teaching aids and more than 200 models in it. This room was crucial in the provision of practical lessons and demonstrations to our students. However, it has been totally burned.
Altogether, says Mr. Mavrahtu, Lachinai Complete Primary School has encountered an estimated loss of 10 million birr due to the damage perpetrated on it by the invaders.
In general, the damages in the building are estimated to be 6 million birr. The economic damage against equipment is estimated to be worth 3 million birr, while the damages happening on books is estimated to be 1 million. Therefore, more than 10 million birr preliminary budget is required to re-establish the school and resume regular teaching and learning process in our school.
The invaders have deliberately targeted educational institutions across Tigray during their 8 months occupation of the area, and they have destroyed all the institutions at all levels of education, including universities. The aim is clear: pulling Tigray's development 30 years back, as they said it in their own words.
Due to the ongoing siege that has blocked basics from entering Tigray, more than 6.5 million people in the state are in a dire need of humanitarian assistance. As a result, many households have run out of food, and is more difficult for those who live with chronic illnesses such as HIV. Our reporter Aragay Gabra Mikael visited Abdelwasi Ahmed's household in Magala to see how he and his family has been coping with the ongoing siege.
Mr. Abdulwasi Ahmed is a resident of Mekelle. He, his wife Medina, and his 5-year-old son Said are HIV positives. As one of the employees of the federal government in Tigray, Mr. Abdulwasi has been denied of his salary for over 9 months now. As a result, he and his family are exposed to multiple problems.
I have a great problem in the house because my salary is terminated and I couldn't get any job these days. Currently, as a Muslim, I have a duty of fasting. But comparing to previous Ramadan, this one is very severe because previously we used to eat whatever we like in the time of Ramadan. But currently we are forced to break our fasting hours with the little food we have with no choices.
Medina Ahmed is the wife of Mr. Abdul Wasi. She has been HIV positive for past 6 years. She said that she and her family are suffering from multiple problems as they have nothing to eat or drink at home.
I am HIV positive and I have been taking the medication for the last 6 years now. My husband and my 5-year-old son are also HIV positives. I wasn't able to know the health status of my 8-month-old daughter as the hospitals ran out of test kit. Currently we are found in a great problem as we have nothing to eat or drink at home.
According to Medina, the depletion of medical supplies coupled with lack of food has compromised her health and the health of her children.
كأولنا مجتمعات غزة حذيك خد مقبرو يخدلي مستمر بالمسان.
There is severe lack of medicine at the health centers, and I have to go there every 5 days to get medicine for the next 5 days with my children. And this is even very difficult, especially to my son, as he has difficulties to walk on foot for he is malnourished. On top of that, he is suffering from a cough. My health is not also as good as before. My body is starting to swell everywhere, so I couldn't even sleep properly.
Medina said that multiple problems that she is facing have made her life full of stress, especially the suffering of her children couldn't give her rest, and she called for anyone to help her.
My life is very much disturbed. In the first place, I am not healthy. On top of that, the case of my child couldn't let me sleep. We are in a bad situation, so I need help from anyone, either inside or outside the country, as I am suffering from HIV and starvation with my children.
As health conditions continue to deteriorate, the World Health Organization has also reported that almost 4 million people in Tigray are in dire need of medical supplies, as millions more continue to suffer due to lack of food.
That wraps up today's news. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful time.